Hello and welcome to the Whisky.com news on the 19th of July 2021. And we have a number of very interesting whiskey news. The first one comes from Dewar's. And Dewar's is bringing out an 8-year-old whiskey with a Japanese Mizunara oak finish. So it was matured for 8 years in normal ex-bourbon casks and then for 6 more months in this Japanese Mizunara oak. 40% ABV and will come to the market soon. Loch Lomond is also doing an extra finish, and Loch Lomond is now maturing in infrared toasted casks. So they brought out a new single grain whiskey with the name Spearhead, and they are now finishing their whiskey in infrared toasted casks. First it was matured in ex-bourbon casks, and then it was matured in a mix of fire and infrared toasted American oak casks. We already know that technology from the United States. I don't want to say it's common, but a few distilleries already do that. Amongst them is, for example, Maker's Mark. Then we have the Bimber Distillery that is bringing out the Country Collection 2021. It's a new series of whiskies, and there are 24 single cask whiskies in cask strength, and amongst them are maturations in bourbon casks, Pedro Ximénez, Madeira, Ruby Port and rye casks. And all of that was made from the barley of the local farm that the distillery is owning. Then we have the Uist Distilling Co, and they are getting £2 million from the British government, and that's because they are building low carbon technology into their distillery. The investment is £12.5 million, and the distillery will be built in the Outer Hebrides. I think I've already had that in the news, and the production should start at the beginning of 2020. Then we have another news about carbon neutrality. Nc'nean is the first zero emission whiskey distillery in Great Britain. That means they got certified from the environmental strategies in Great Britain, and that means the emissions were lower than the carbon dioxide they took from the atmosphere. Next up, Ireland. Ireland is bringing out a 32-year-old Irish whiskey to the market. It's a single malt. It is limited to 750 bottles. It's 46% ABV and not chill filtered. Then we come to the United States. Angel's Envy is getting extension in Louisville. It's a small batch distillery in Louisville, and it was opened in 2016. Now the distillery is investing $8.2 million to increase their visitor capacity, and you are getting 1,200 square meters of range, and it should be opened in 2022. Then we have Sugarland Distilling Company is building the biggest pot still of the United States. It's a $20 million distillery project, and the distillery and the warehouses are being built in Kodak, Tennessee. 17,000 liter of mash should be distilled there in the pot still, and the whiskey will be called Roaming Man Tennessee Straight Rye Whiskey. Then we have Yellowstone, and they are unveiling their limited edition Kentucky Straight Bourbon. It's a mixture between 7-year-old and 15-year-old bourbons, and the 7-year-old whiskey was finished in Amarone casks, and it is bottled at 50.5% ABV. Then we have more news from the United States. Whistlepig Whiskey brings the Roadstock Rye to the market. They are celebrating the not so much traveled roads in the United States by they're creating a 18-wheeler rolling rickhouse. That means a warehouse on a big truck in the United States. For everybody who doesn't know what an 18-wheeler is, that's kind of what the Americans call their very big trucks. And a rickhouse is just a warehouse. And that is rolling around the United States on a 6,000 miles journey. And with the road bumping, rolling, and shaking the casks, it should give the cask an unbelievable finish, as the distillery tells us. Yeah, we will see. It's an interesting product. The tequila producer Pura Vida Tequila Frontier Spirits is planning a distillery in Texas. It's a 28,000 square kilometer range for the distillery, and will have a tasting room and a store where you can buy the whiskey. And the new distillery should go online at the end of 2020. And then, last but not least, maybe you have read in the news that Germany was hit by some floods, by some very big floods. So Whisky.de was selling some old Artback bottles, or some rare Artback bottles, and was actually giving that to the Technische Hilfswerk in Germany, which is kind of catastrophe helping organization. So we sold these bottles, and everything we took except the VAT we gave them to help rebuild the areas, or just get help to these areas. So that was it. That was it. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.